You know that particular sound a pair of $1,200 designer heels makes on polished concrete? It's not just footsteps. It's a warning signal. That sharp, rhythmic click, click, click announces someone who's never worried about paying rent and is about to destroy your livelihood. I was standing near the back of the atrium at Horizon Tech Solutions, holding lukewarm coffee that tasted like despair mixed with cheap grounds. I'd been the director of corporate real estate for 19 years. That meant I knew the exact cost per square foot of that polished floor beneath our feet, $18.50 installed. I knew the HVAC requirements to prevent this glass structure from becoming a greenhouse. I knew the coffee machine lease was expiring in 3 weeks, but apparently all that knowledge made me obsolete. Sophia Harrington, the founder's daughter, swept into the room like a hurricane wrapped in designer labels. She had that particular glow that only comes from a lifetime of green smoothies and zero accountability. 32 years old, holding an MBA she probably earned through connections, freshly appointed as CEO after her father decided to retire to his vineyard and escape shareholder scrutiny. "Good morning, everyone," Sophia announced. Her voice carried that forced, manic enthusiasm that makes HR professionals nervous. She didn't bother with a microphone. She projected. "Today marks a new chapter, Horizon 2.0. We're eliminating inefficiencies. We're pivoting. We're disrupting our own foundation." I took a slow sip of terrible coffee. Eliminating inefficiencies is corporate language for firing anyone who remembers how things actually work. Before I continue, before security tries to remove me from the premises, let me ask you something. If you appreciate stories about corporate takedowns and the beautiful precision of contractual compliance, go ahead and subscribe. It helps others who understand these situations find this content. Trust me, what I'm about to share requires a support network. Sophia scanned the room. Her eyes weren't searching for people. They were identifying targets. When her gaze landed on me, she didn't hesitate. She smiled, a sharp, predatory expression showing too many teeth. "Catherine," she said. The room fell silent. You could hear the vending machines humming down the hallway. "Step forward, please." I didn't move immediately. I adjusted my glasses, smoothed the front of my navy blazer, purchased on sale at a department store 5 years ago. Practical, durable, invisible. I walked to the front in sensible flats that made no sound compared to her stilettos. "Everyone," Sophia gestured toward me like I was an exhibit of something extinct. "This is exactly what I'm addressing. The old guard, the stagnant bureaucracy. Catherine here has been managing our facilities since before social media existed. Frankly, we don't need managers anymore. We need innovators. We need flexibility." She turned to me, dropping the smile. "Catherine, consider this your termination, effective immediately. We're outsourcing real estate and facilities to a cloud-based firm in Austin. They're cheaper, faster, and frankly, younger." A murmur rippled through the assembled employees. I noticed Daniel, the company's general counsel, standing beside Sophia. Daniel was competent but weak. He stared at his shoes. He understood this was a potential age discrimination lawsuit wrapped in wrongful termination charges. But he was too terrified of the new vision to speak. "You want me to leave now?" I asked. My voice remained steady. "I don't raise my voice. I negotiate. Right now," Sophia said, checking her smartwatch. "Security will accompany you. Leave your laptop, and please don't create a scene. It's so outdated." I nodded slowly, calmly. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I didn't mention my 19 years of loyalty or the time I came in at 3 in the morning because a pipe burst in the server room and I was the only one with the plumber's direct number. I simply reached into my oversized bag. "Very well," I said. "If I'm no longer the director of real estate, I suppose I shouldn't be holding these." I pulled out a heavy brass ring, not a digital key card, an actual physical ring with about 15 old-fashioned keys attached. Master keys, skeleton keys, keys that looked like they belonged in a castle dungeon. I placed them gently on the sleek glass podium in front of Sophia. Clink, the master set. I said softly, campus access, warehouse, perimeter gates, server rooms, and the executive suite override. Sophia rolled her eyes. Cute. We use key cards, Catherine. Keep your antiques as a keepsake. But Daniel, the lawyer, finally looked up. His eyes locked onto that brass ring, specifically onto the small red tag attached to the largest key. The color drained from his face so rapidly he looked bleached. Sophia, Daniel whispered. It was a strangled sound. Sophia, those aren't just facility keys. Quiet, Daniel. Sophia snapped. She waved at security. Remove her. 2 guards stepped forward, men I'd hired myself, whose children's names I knew. Sorry, Miss Patterson. One mumbled. It's fine, James. I said, you're just doing your job. I turned back to Sophia one final time. She was already checking her phone, bored with her own power display. She had no idea what she'd just done. She thought she was discarding garbage. She didn't realize she was removing the foundation of the entire structure. Good luck with the cloud-based management, I said. I hear the reception is terrible in the basement. I walked out without looking back, but as the glass door slid shut behind me, I saw Daniel frantically grabbing the key ring, hands shaking, bringing it close to his face to read the tag. I knew what it said. I'd written it there myself 12 years ago. Property of Summit Holdings Group. Owner use only. Sophia wanted a performance. She wanted to prove she was in charge. Well, she certainly proved something. She proved you should never fire the person who holds the keys until you know exactly whose locks they open. And she was about to discover that Horizon Tech Solutions didn't actually own the ground she was standing on. I did, to understand why Daniel the lawyer looked like he was about to be sick all over that podium. You need to understand the history of Horizon Tech Solutions, or rather, the history of its founders' indifference to administrative details. 19 years ago when I started, the company was a chaotic startup operating in a leased warehouse. The founder, Gregory Harrington, Sophia's father, was a brilliant engineer and a terrible administrator. He treated tax regulations like suggestions and viewed paperwork as a personal affront. He wanted to build technology, write code, and purchase luxury vehicles. He did not want to deal with property taxes, zoning requirements, or liability insurance. About 7 years into my employment, Horizon exploded financially. We were drowning in capital and needed to expand. Gregory wanted to purchase a massive campus in Silicon Valley, 3 buildings, a parking structure, and a warehouse. It was a $50 million acquisition, but Gregory had a problem. He was personally over-leveraged due to a messy divorce. Sophia's mother took the yacht. Gregory kept the debt. The company's credit rating was shaky because he consistently forgot to file quarterly reports. Banks weren't enthusiastic about lending Horizon the full amount for the real estate. I was the facilities manager back then. I sat in the meeting where Gregory was having a tantrum, throwing markers at a whiteboard because the bank wanted a larger down payment. I don't have time for this, Gregory shouted. I need that property. We have equipment sitting exposed to the elements. Catherine, fix it. Fix the bank's lending criteria, I asked, looking up from my notes. Fix the ownership structure, he yelled. I don't care who owns it. I just need to use it. Set up a shell company. Set up a trust. I don't care. Just get the title signed so I can move the equipment in. That was the moment. The golden opportunity. Gregory didn't care about assets. He cared about operations. He viewed real estate as a liability, something requiring maintenance, insurance, and taxes. He wanted the utility of the building without the burden of the deed. So I proposed a solution, a strategic holding entity. I created an LLC called Summit Holdings Group. It sounded corporate, vague, and boring, exactly the kind of name people gloss over. I told Gregory that this entity would purchase the land, hold the liability, and lease it back to Horizon on a triple net basis. This would keep the mortgage off Horizon's balance sheet, improving the company's debt-equity ratio for future investors. Gregory didn't even read the proposal. He just heard improved debt ratio, and I don't have to sign the mortgage. Brilliant, he said, signing the authorization while eating a bagel. Do it. Make it happen, Catherine. Here's the detail that slipped through the cracks of corporate history. Summit Holdings Group wasn't a subsidiary of Horizon. It was mine. I legally formed the LLC. I contributed my own savings and a significant loan against my inheritance for the down payment. The bank approved the loan because Horizon signed a 20-year lease agreement guaranteeing the mortgage payments. Essentially, Horizon was paying my mortgage while I built equity. Was it illegal? Absolutely not. It was fully disclosed in the stack of documents Gregory signed. Right there on page 42, Summit Holdings Group, a California limited liability company. Sole member, Catherine Patterson. Gregory just never read page 42. Neither did Daniel, who was a junior associate at the time, more focused on impressing the paralegals than reviewing title deeds. For 12 years, I played the part of the dutiful employee. I managed the buildings. I fixed the problems. I negotiated the service contracts, and every month, Horizon Tech Solutions wired a substantial rent payment to Summit Holdings Group, and every month, Summit Holdings Group paid the mortgage and banked the difference. I never flaunted it. I drove a modest sedan. I brought lunch from home. I wore practical shoes. I let them treat me like support staff. I let them think I was just Catherine from facilities, the woman you call when the plumbing fails or the temperature is wrong. I became the landlord they forgot they had. Over time, I expanded. When Horizon needed a new satellite office, Summit Holdings purchased it and leased it to them. When they needed a secure data facility, Summit Holdings acquired the land. By the time Sophia stormed in with her stilettos and her Horizon 2, Zero Vision, my little LLC, held the title to the headquarters, the research and development lab, and the primary distribution warehouse. I essentially owned the game board while they were fighting over the pieces. So when Sophia fired me, she didn't just terminate an employee. She terminated the entity that granted Horizon the legal right to occupy its own headquarters. The best part, the 20-year master lease, the one that kept the rent affordable and the terms favorable, had a very specific clause regarding the termination of the primary liaison. That liaison was me. I sat in my car in the parking lot, watching the security guards patrol the perimeter. I pulled up the banking app for Summit Holdings on my phone. The balance was healthy, very healthy. Eliminate inefficiencies. I whispered to myself, watching Sophia's silhouette in the executive window on the 4th floor. Honey, you just severed the main artery. The devil isn't in the details. The devil is in the unread inbox. 3 weeks before Sophia officially assumed control, I knew she was coming. The rumors had been circulating around the office for months. The daughter is ascending. The purge is imminent. As a professional who actually cared about business continuity, even though I owned the building, I did my due diligence. I prepared a comprehensive transition document covering assets and infrastructure strategy. It was 40 pages long, dry, dense, formatted in Times New Roman, size 11, single-spaced. It was the most critical document in the company's operational history. I emailed it to Sophia, copying her new chief of staff, a 24-year-old named Connor who listed vibe curation as a skill on his professional profile. The subject line read, Critical Infrastructure Leases, Title Holdings, and Compliance Review for Fiscal Year 25. I tracked the email. Connor opened it 17 seconds after I sent it. He spent a total of 4 seconds reviewing it. Then, based on the server logs I could still access, because they hadn't revoked my admin privileges yet, he forwarded it to an archived folder titled Legacy Docs/Boring Stuff. I can imagine the conversation. Connor, Yo, Sophia, the facility lady sent some massive document about leases. Sophia, ugh, delete it. We're going fully remote. Hi, Bradagil anyway. We don't need infrastructure strategies. We need momentum. If they had read page 3, paragraph 2, they would have seen this sentence. Please note that 85% of operational square footage is leased from third-party partner Summit Holdings. The master lease agreement is contingent upon the continued employment of the designated asset manager, Catherine Patterson, to maintain tenanting. Good standing status. Failure to retain said manager triggers an immediate renegotiation clause under Section 14. B. They didn't read it. So 2 days after my dramatic exit, I was at home. My house is in a quiet suburb, a nice mid-century modern tucked into the hills. It's paid off. The garden is full of drought-resistant plants and lavender because I don't believe in wasting resources. I was dead-heading my roses, wearing gardening gloves that cost more than Connor's entire outfit, when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. I took a sip of iced tea and checked the screen. It was a notification from the Horizon internal system. They hadn't cut off my email access yet. Amateurs. I hadn't logged in, but the push notifications were still active on my lock screen. Urgent. Access denied. Server room B. Urgent power failure, executive wing. Urgent security badge system failure. I smiled. The smart building system that Horizon was so proud of, the one controlling the locks, the lights, the climate, was registered to the building owner. Me, the account was linked to my corporate credit card, which they'd canceled immediately upon my termination. When they canceled my card, the autopay for the cloud-based building management system bounced. The vendor, a company called SecureNet, has a very strict policy. Payment fails, service suspends immediately. Back at the office, chaos was unfolding. I could picture it perfectly. Sophia trying to swipe her badge into the executive suite, getting only a sad red light. Connor trying to access the server room to curate the vibes, finding the maglocks engaged. And the air conditioning. Oh, the air conditioning. I had programmed the system to default to energy, saving mode in the event of a payment disconnect. Energy saving mode means the AC cuts off. The blinds retract to let in full sunlight. The ambient temperature settles at a balmy 82 degrees to protect the environment. I peeled off my gardening gloves and walked into my kitchen. I opened my laptop, my personal one, not the company brick they made me leave behind. I logged into the Summit Holdings portal. There was a new message in the inbox from Daniel the lawyer. Subject, clarification on key handoff. Body, Catherine, we need to talk. There seems to be a misunderstanding regarding the ownership structure of the campus. The keys you left don't seem to work on the manual overrides. Also, the bank is asking questions about a change of control provision. Please call me immediately. I closed the laptop. Misunderstanding. I said to the empty room, no, Daniel, it's a terrifyingly clear understanding. I decided to make a salad, a nice Nicoise. I had all the time in the world. They, on the other hand, were currently sweating through their silk blouses in a glass box that was rapidly becoming a terrarium. While I was enjoying my salad and the scent of blooming jasmine, Sophia was sitting in a boardroom that smelled of nervous sweat and overheating electronics. I wasn't there, obviously, but I know exactly what happened because the banker sitting across from her, a man named Jonathan from a major investment bank, is an old friend of mine. We play bridge on Thursdays. Sophia had called the meeting to secure a bridge loan for innovation. Basically, she wanted $20 million in liquid capital to rebrand the company, fire the remaining veterans, and launch a marketing campaign featuring influencers who don't understand semiconductors. Her plan was simple. use the Horizon campus as collateral. The property value had skyrocketed over the last decade. It was worth at least 80 million. Easy money. Jonathan told me the story later over a glass of wine. So, Jonathan had said, adjusting his spectacles, "Miss Harrington, you want to leverage the headquarters at 400 Tech Park Drive." "Exactly," Sophia said, fanning herself with a folder because the AC was still dead. "It's our flagship, a symbol of our stability." Jonathan tapped his tablet. He frowned, tapped it again. "Miss Harrington, there seems to be a discrepancy." "What discrepancy?" Sophia snapped. "The building is right here. We're sitting in it." "Physically, yes," Jonathan said slowly. "But according to the title search we just ran, Horizon Tech Solutions doesn't own this building." Sophia laughed, a sharp, incredulous bark. "Don't be ridiculous. My father built this place. I have photos of him cutting the ribbon." "He may have cut the ribbon," Jonathan said, turning the tablet around to face her. "But the deed is held by an entity called Summit Holdings Group." Sophia blinked. "Summit what?" "Summit Holdings Group, and according to the lien search, there's a strict no-en, cumbrance clause. You cannot use this property as collateral because you are merely the tenant." Sophia turned to Daniel the lawyer, who was sweating profusely in the corner. "Daniel, explain." Daniel cleared his throat. "Well, Sophia, as I was trying to tell you earlier regarding the keys, the corporate structure established during the expansion phase utilized a third-party holding strategy to mitigate tax liability. In English, Daniel." Sophia slammed her hand on the table. "We rent the building, Sophia." Daniel squeaked. "We don't own it. We just rent it." "From whom?" Sophia demanded. "Who is Summit Holdings? Is it a shell? Is it Dad?" "It's not your father," Jonathan interjected, looking at the file. "The managing member is listed as, let me see, Catherine Patterson." The silence that followed must have been exquisite. I would have paid actual money to see Sophia's face, the realization hitting her like cold water. The woman she had publicly humiliated, the woman she had fired for being old guard and obsolete, was literally her landlord, Catherine. Sophia whispered, "The facilities lady." "Apparently," Jonathan said, closing his briefcase. "And since you cannot pledge assets you do not own, I'm afraid this loan application is denied. Furthermore, Miss Harrington, looking at your financials, your lease agreement seems to be up for renewal review due to a change of management trigger. Have you renegotiated those terms yet?" Sophia stared at him blankly. "Because," Jonathan continued, twisting the knife with professional politeness, "if you don't secure a long-term lease extension within 30 days of the management change, the default rate kicks in. Looking at market value, that would triple your monthly rent." Jonathan stood up. "Call me when you have the paperwork sorted. But frankly, Miss Harrington, if I were you, I'd be less worried about rebranding and more worried about eviction." Back in my suburb, I poured myself another glass of iced tea. I opened my tablet and checked the security cameras, which I still had access to because they were hardwired into the building's proprietary network, not the company server. I saw Sophia storming out of the conference room, screaming at Daniel. I saw Connor running behind her, holding a portable fan. I zoomed in on Daniel. He looked like a man calculating his severance package. I decided it was time to send the first official communication. Not an email, not a text. I drafted a formal notice on Summit Holdings letterhead. To Horizon Tech Solutions Executive Team from Summit Holdings Group Re. Notice of lease review and compliance, Odd. It, dear tenant, it has come to our attention that the designated liaison, C. Patterson, is no longer employed by your firm. As per Section 14B of the master lease, this triggers an immediate compliance audit. Please be advised that all building modifications made without owner approval must be reversed immediately. This includes the removal of the open concept wall on the third floor structural violation and the installation of the meditation pods in the lobby fire code violation. We will be conducting a site inspection on Monday at 9 a.m. Please ensure all keys are available. Sincerely, the management. I hit print. I signed it with my favorite fountain pen. Sophia wanted to play boss. Fine, I'll play landlord, the kind who measures the grass height with a ruler. There's a special kind of hell reserved for corporate lawyers, and it usually involves a windowless room, fluorescent lights, and boxes of documents that smell like mildew and regret. Daniel was currently in that hell. After the disaster with the bank, Sophia had ordered a forensic investigation. She was convinced I had embezzled the property or tricked her father or forged documents. She wanted a loophole. She wanted a clause that said, "Just kidding, Horizon actually owns it." She sent Daniel and 3 junior associates down to the archives. The irony, they needed the physical keys I had left on the podium just to get into the room. The electronic badges didn't work on the archive door because, you guessed it, I had never bothered to wire that room for the new system. I liked the old heavy tumbler lock. It felt secure. I watched them on the security feed. Seriously, nobody ever looks up at the little black domes in the ceiling. Daniel was sweating through his dress shirt. He was sneezing. Find the original deed. He yelled at a terrified associate named Ashley. Find the incorporation papers for Summit Holdings. They spent 6 hours down there. What they found was not fraud. What they found was a masterclass in meticulous documentation. They found the original authorization of asset transfer signed by Gregory Harrington in bold blue ink. They found the board resolution from 2008 approving the leaseback structure signed by the entire board of directors. They found the email chains where I explicitly asked, "Are you sure you want to structure it this way?" And Gregory replied, "Yes, just get it done. I don't care about the details." But the piece de resistance was the infrastructure ownership rider. Ashley found it around 8 p.m. I saw her holding up a document with a yellow sticky note on it. She looked pale. She handed it to Daniel. I knew exactly which document that was. It was an agreement stating that all hardwired improvements made to the property, including the backup generators, the fiber optic cabling, the server cooling systems, and the security grid, became the sole property of the landlord, Summit Holdings, upon installation, in exchange for a reduced rental rate on the land. Basically, Horizon had paid to install the equipment, but I owned it. Daniel read the document. He sat down heavily on a stack of archive boxes. He put his head in his hands. She owns the cables. I could almost hear him whisper. She owns the literal wires in the walls. If Horizon tried to move, they couldn't take the server infrastructure. They couldn't take the generators. They would have to rip the company out by the roots, leaving behind everything that made it function. Up in the executive suite, Sophia was pacing. She called Daniel on speakerphone. "Well," she demanded, "did you find the smoking gun? Can we sue her?" "Sophia," Daniel said, his voice sounding tiny and defeated over the line. "We can't sue her. Every single piece of paper is signed, notarized, and board. Approved. It's ironclad. There has to be a way out," Sophia shrieked. "Eminent domain, hostile takeover, something." "There is one thing," Daniel said. "The rider, the infrastructure rider. What about it?" "It says that technically she owns the fiber optic lines running into the server room and the cooling units and the backup power. So if she terminates the lease for violation, she can legally shut them off. She doesn't just own the building, Sophia. She owns the company's nervous system." Sophia went silent. "Get her on the phone," Sophia said, voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "Offer her a settlement. Give her 6 months severance. Make her go away." "I don't think 6 months severance is going to cut it," Daniel said. "Just do it." I was in my living room reading a book on the history of brutalist architecture when my cell phone rang. It was Daniel. I let it go to voicemail. Then I blocked his number. If they wanted to talk to the landlord, they could follow the procedure outlined in the lease. Written requests only, sent via certified mail. Allow 5 to 7 business days for response. I wasn't an employee anymore. I didn't have to answer the phone. I was a third-party vendor, and right now, this vendor was closed for the weekend. Sophia, proving she had learned absolutely nothing, decided the problem wasn't her lack of ownership, but a lack of personnel. She hired a new director of physical operations the next day. His name was Kyle. Kyle was a former logistics manager for a tech startup that delivered pet food via drone. He wore a vest and talked about optimizing verticality. Kyle lasted exactly 48 hours. His first mission was to get the AC back online. He called an HVAC repair company, not the one we'd used for 15 years, but a disruptive app-based service. The technician arrived, looked at the massive industrial chillers on the roof, asked for the access codes to the digital control panel. Kyle didn't have the codes, just hack it. Kyle told the technician, bypass the panel. The technician, who didn't want to go to jail, refused. Sir, this system is locked down by the proprietor. If I force it, it triggers a silent alarm and voids the warranty. Also, it might dump the coolant as a safety measure. Kyle yelled at him. The technician left. The temperature in the server room climbed to 95 degrees. The real fun started on Wednesday. I had made a small anonymous phone call to the City Code Enforcement Division. Just a concerned citizen reporting a potential violation regarding the meditation pods Sophia had installed in the lobby. I mentioned they might be blocking fire exits. At 10 a.m., Inspector Miller arrived. I know Miller. He's a stickler. He measures door widths to the millimeter. He walked into the lobby, saw the wooden structures blocking the main egress path, and immediately pulled out his red citation pad. Kyle ran down to meet him. Whoa, my guy. What's the energy here? We're just creating space for mental wellness. You're creating a fire trap. Miller grunted. Let me see your certificate of occupancy and your alteration permits for these structures. Kyle said. Permits are in the cloud. They need to be posted, Miller said, and looking at my file, the certificate of occupancy for this address is issued to Summit Holdings Group. Are you a representative of Summit Holdings? No, I'm Horizon Systems. We own the place. Miller narrowed his eyes. Not according to the city. The CO is tied to the owner. If the owner didn't pull the permits for these pods, they're illegal, and since you're modifying a structure without the owner's consent. He slapped a bright red stop, work/unsafe, structure sticker on the glass doors of the main entrance. I'm citing the building, Miller announced. You have 24 hours to remove these obstructions, or I'm condemning the lobby. That means nobody comes in or out. Building closed. The fine is $5,000 a day. It goes to the owner of record. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to receive it. When Miller left, Kyle stood there holding the citation. He looked like he was about to cry. Back in my garden, I received an automated email from the city. Notification of citation. 400 Tech Park Drive. Recipient, Summit Holdings Group. I smiled. A lease violation. A tenant causing code violations and fines to be levied against the landlord is a material breach of contract. Section 19(c) of the lease. In the event of a material breach, the landlord reserves the right to terminate the lease with 7 days' notice and retake possession of the premises. I didn't want to evict them yet. That was too easy. I wanted them to sweat. I scanned the citation and attached it to a new email. To Sophia Harrington, COCC, Legal Department from Summit Holdings Group subject. Notice of lease violation and indemnification demand Miss Harrington. We are in receipt of a code violation regarding unauthorized construction in the lobby. You are hereby notified that you are in breach of your lease. You have 24 hours to cure this breach. Additionally, pursuant to the gross negligence clause, rent for the current month is now subject to a 15% penalty fee. Please remit payment of $45,000 immediately. Govern yourself accordingly. Catherine, I heard later that Kyle was fired that afternoon. Sophia threw a stapler at him. She was running out of people to fire. Soon she'd have to look in the mirror. Desperation has a distinct smell. It smells like frantic voicemails left at 11:30 p. M. On a Tuesday, by the end of the first week, Sophia's Horizon 2. Zero Vision had collapsed into Horizon survival mode. The lobby was closed due to the code violation. The servers were throttling down because of the heat. The employees were revolting because the coffee machines, also leased in my name, had been repossessed by the vendor. Sophia tried to call me again. I watched the phone ring. It was her personal cell. Voicemail 1, Tuesday, 9:14 a.m. Catherine, this is Sophia. Look, we need to resolve this paperwork mix-up. It's getting ridiculous. Call me back so we can sign whatever needs to be signed. Tone, annoyed, superior. Analysis, she still thinks this is a clerical error. Voicemail 2, Wednesday, 2:30 p.m. Catherine, Daniel tells me you're blocking his calls. That's very unprofessional. We're prepared to offer you a consulting fee to come in and smooth this over. $200 an hour. Let's get this done. Tone, transactional. Analysis, she thinks she can buy me with pocket change. My consulting rate is $500 minimum. Voicemail 3, Thursday, 11:45 p.m. Catherine, it's Sophia. The city is threatening to shut off the water because the bill is in the LLC name and the autopay failed. Please, we have the quarterly board meeting on Monday. I can't have the water shut off. Just pick up. Tone, panic, analysis. Finally, we're getting somewhere. I didn't pick up. Instead, I sent a courier. I hired a process server to deliver a notice of rent adjustment and renewal terms. The courier arrived at the Horizon back entrance, since the front was closed by the city, on Friday morning. He handed the thick envelope to the security guard, who handed it to Sophia. She opened it in the middle of the hallway. The document outlined the terms for a lease renewal, since the previous terms were voided by my termination. Monthly rent, $1.2 million, up from $400,000. Security deposit, $5 million cash upfront. Lease term, month only. Special condition, the tenant acknowledges that all facility management decisions revert to the landlord's exclusive control. Sophia reportedly screamed. She threw the papers on the floor, but then the text messages started. Sophia, you can't do this. This is extortion. Auto reply, this is an automated message. For leasing inquiries, please contact Summit Holdings Group during business hours. Sophia, I'm sorry about the firing. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Auto reply, this is an automated message. Your query has been logged. Sophia, my father's going to hear about this. Ah, the father card. I actually picked up my phone for that one. I texted back manually. Me, your father signed the original agreement. He knows exactly who owns the building. Maybe you should ask him why he didn't tell you. The truth was, Gregory Harrington probably did forget. He was in his vineyard, drunk on wine, likely oblivious to the fact that his daughter had fired his landlord, but the silence from Sophia after that text was telling. She realized she was alone. Daddy couldn't fix this. Then came the heavy hitters. On Saturday morning, a black sedan pulled into my driveway. It wasn't Sophia. It was Walter Brennan, the chairman of the board of Horizon Tech Solutions. Walter is a serious man, 70 years old, wears suits that cost more than my car, and doesn't tolerate incompetence. He had been on the board when I set up the LLC. He knew. He had just been too busy counting his stock options to pay attention to the transition. He walked up to my porch. I was sitting there with my tea. Catherine, he said, nodding respectfully. Walter. I replied, lovely day for a drive. You've made your point, he said. He didn't look angry. He looked impressed. Sophia is inexperienced. She made a mistake. A mistake is a typo, Walter. I said, firing the person who holds the deed to your company is suicide. Agreed. Walter said, the board is meeting on Monday. Emergency session. We want you there. I don't work for Horizon. We know, Walter said. We want you there as the landlord. We need to discuss the terms of our surrender. He smiled faintly. I'll check my calendar. Please, Walter said. He placed a card on the table. Sophia is done. We all know that. Now we just need to save the building. He turned and walked back to his car. I picked up the card. It was an invitation to the boardroom, Monday, 9 a.m. The end game was set. The Horizon boardroom is designed to intimidate. It has a 50-foot mahogany table, floor, the ceiling windows overlooking the valley, chairs that look like they belong on the bridge of a starship. Usually, I stood at the back of this room, adjusting the thermostat or making sure the water pitcher